Is Ethereum finally reversing, Graham? Is ETH BTC?
Yeah, I say it's going to keep ripping because, and the reason I know that is because I sold all my Ethereum at the Pico bottom.
Did you really?
Welcome back to Token Narratives. I'm Graham Stone, joined as usual by David Sensel. And it's been another big week for Bitcoin and crypto, with all-time highs in Bitcoin, XRP, and a few other tokens, I believe. We also have, of course, landmark legislation passing in the US. We've got the biggest ICO since 2017. And as usual, more Bitcoin and crypto corporate treasury announcements. Let's start off with Crypto Week and the passing of the Genius Act. So, David, can you tee this one up?
Yeah, so I guess I would start with 3 weeks ago, or no, I guess about 2 weeks ago. House Republican leaders declared that this week, the week of July 14th, was going to be Crypto Week. And I don't know, at the time and then leading up to the week, I thought that was kind of a bold move, maybe setting yourself up for failure. But they definitely, the Republicans, the House leadership, they definitely delivered, man. So all three pieces of the Crypto Week legislation agenda passed through the House. And as you said, the Genius Act is done with the House and the Senate. It's going to President Trump's desk Friday. I think he's expected to sign it Friday, but he might wait till Monday, but I expect he'll sign it on Friday. So then that's done. But there's also two other things that passed through the House: the Clarity Act, and then the the anti-CBDC Surveillance Act. So all three of those pieces went through. We can walk through each of those things now if you want, but if you have anything to say on the overview.
Yeah, so just the Genius Act will become law as soon as Trump signs it, while the other two still have to go through Senate. So not law. Yeah.
And they have varying degrees of work to do. The Clarity Act is a little further along than the anti-CBDC bill, so I think the Clarity Act has some legislation already introduced into the Senate. It's going to go to the Senate floor and go through all the kind of archaic things that it needs to do to maybe eventually pass. But the anti-CBDC one doesn't even have legislation on the floor yet of the Senate. So it's much it has a lot more work to be done on it. And I guess I read somewhere that the Republicans are now expecting to introduce some initial kind of outline for what this legislation should look like soon. So much more work to be done on that. But
all right, well, let's dive into the Genius Act, the stablecoin thing. Yeah. What are some details of this?
Well, so I mean, as people probably know who are listening to this, it's basically the stablecoin bill, and it sets out kind of rules and regulation of what stablecoins will look like in the U.S., which basically means what stablecoins will look like everywhere in the world, because what is it, like 99.9999% of stablecoins are US dollar denominated stablecoins. So this really is kind of setting the stage for the rest of the world for what stablecoins will look like. Anyway,
and what will they look like?
There'll be these backed one-to-one stable coins in dollars or dollar equivalents. So I think short-term sovereign bonds, U.S. sovereign bonds. I think they're going to have to be held with a certain regulated custodian, lots of regular audits, all those kinds of checks that the U.S. markets are known for. Again, this is really, really good stuff. The issuers of it have to follow a lot of different rules and regulations, and I think maybe the thing that is maybe most germane or controversial is who can do this, right? Who's going to have the ability to issue stable coins, U.S. dollar denominated stable coins, and there's this kind of there's language in there for basically you have to your main business has to be in finance, basically, right? Like, so you can't be a lingerie wrestling league and issue a stable coin. Now, if you're a lingerie wrestling league, you can, of course, become a Bitcoin treasury company, but you're not going to be issuing a stable coin. And so this has gotten a lot of pushback, concerns about offering unfair advantage to traditional financial players like JP Morgan and whatnot. I actually side with it. I think this is actually a good thing because it also hinders these mega companies like Amazon or Facebook from then stepping into this and then becoming these even bigger, more monopolistic companies, I think. And so overall, I think it's this little piece of the legislation is good. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It should be noted, I think, that like it works both ways. So banks, like financial institutions, aren't allowed to start social media networks. They have very specific rules about what kind of business they're allowed to get involved in. So now with this legislation, it's sort of making some rules go the other way, where
right,
those social media companies, they're not allowed to get into this stablecoin business.
Right. And it should be noted, just for clarity, that what you're talking about is not in this bill. That predates this. And those are rules that are already on the books. And again, you can imagine in like the 80s and 90s or whenever it was passed, this is a good thing, right? Yeah, you're preventing these banks, and especially mega banks, from becoming even bigger by owning more of the stack, right? Like you could imagine them. I could have imagined them in like the 80s and 90s swallowing up retailers because why not provide goods and services and then all the way down the stack to payments and deposits and all that kind of stuff, and handle loans to businesses. Very fraught with kind of danger by picking winners and losers. So again, yeah. One thing that I wanted to ask you about, I haven't really formed an opinion. Well, I haven't formed a good opinion, I don't think, is do you think so this also favors apparently this Genius Act favors larger financial institutions than smaller ones, which will have a harder time issuing stable coins, and thus again calls that this will be bad and help the already mega banks become even more mega.
Yeah, and that's what the consensus seems to be. This is good for the big banks, bad for small local banks who already are struggling. They don't offer the one thing they're good at is giving loans locally to people, but they don't offer you like anything on your deposits, and they won't be able to enter the stablecoin game here. because they just don't have the scale to be able to do it. While the big banks will be able to do that, and so they'll be able to presumably like provide a better payments experience for their customers. It's going to mean more customers just putting more of their deposits with the big banks and less with the small local banks. So more pressure on smaller local banks, more opportunity for big banks.
Yeah, more consolidation.
So we're going to see more consolidation, it seems. Exactly.
But so do you think this is kind of a good thing or a bad thing?
It's good for consumers.
Yeah.
I
mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I don't really have a strong opinion. I don't really care about small local banks, I guess, in the US. I don't know. I mean, like,
well, there are studies that have shown that having a robust number of local banks actually really helps GDP, because these local banks, as you kind of alluded to earlier, they really know the local scene and are able to loan much better and with much more granularity than mega banks. And so you see, what is it, like an overwhelming percentage of GDP is actually represented by small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
And those small to medium-sized businesses are best served by local banks who are just because they're local, are much better, better at.
They know the people in their area. They know what kind of business can succeed. They know the risk profile. Big banks don't have that insight, so they're probably like less likely to be able to give loans to people.
And they just flat out don't level. Right? Yeah. They usually don't deal with smaller loans just because they don't bother with it. But overwhelmingly, GDP is represented by SMBs, small to medium-sized businesses, and you'd imagine that as these smaller banks get closed down or consolidated, this would hurt the economy, right? Because you lose that efficiency. At the same time, I mean, I agree with you though.
Concern. Yeah.
I agree with you though that, like, and I was it on podcast. Good Alexander, a great Twitter X follow, said that the thing that they don't do very well is maybe manage their balance sheet, especially when it comes to exposure to sovereign bonds. And the bigger banks, this is kind of their specialty, which makes sense. And
so maybe it's good for improving financial stability, not so good perhaps for GDP growth in general.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a concern there, and this has been a trend for hundreds of years, particularly in the past, I don't know, 100, is the number of local banks has fallen from something like, I think 100 years ago, it was like 4,000, something like that.
Or 40,000.
Something like that. Yeah. And it's now is it 4,000 now? I can't remember.
It's dropped by a lot. Yeah. Huge. Like an order of magnitude.
Huge amounts. Yeah. So that's I would say the one thing to be concerned about. But as for stable coins, this is just within this context. I do think it's probably the best way to do it. As in, the people who wrote the bill, they weren't like trying to be monopolistic or pander to or cater to lobbyists or something like that. This is probably the right way to architect stablecoin legislation.
All right. Well, what do you think in terms of how what this means for Tether versus USDC, for example, or the other big one in the US, I think Pax dollar?
Yeah, Paxos. So Tether is probably going to be fine. I think we've touched on this before. It is the clear market leader. And kind of more than that, it is preferred by non-Americans, right? So like businesses that are wary of America's influence, they like the fact that Tether is kind of domiciled outside of the U.S. and has had a very antagonistic relationship with the U.S. in the past, has kind of survived this whole time despite that antagonism, and so they feel safer being in Tether. Ironically, they feel safer being in Tether versus something that's highly regulated like USDC or Paxos, because they feel like that their money, their virtual dollars are less likely to be censored or confiscated. I don't know how real that is, by the way. I feel like Tether is kind of in the seat of it's definitely like it's following all the U.S. rules, and I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's if the U.S. if like a 3-letter agency asked them to block some amount of Tether, they're going to do it instantly. But anyway, I think that's the perception. USDC, Paxos, all these others, I think they're going to have to fight for market share. I think that's where the fight's going to be. And when JP Morgan bucks come out or whatever, they're going to eat the market share out of those folks.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
No, that's a reasonable take.
What about what are your views on Tether? Like, I mean, I think to me, I don't have a strong opinion on whether Tether is safe or not. If I had to bet, I'd say it is safe, at least for now. But I could see it being replaced eventually.
Yeah. From what I understand, Tether has done an excellent job of creating sort of, through their boots on the ground evangelism around the world, creating these networks where people use Tether, like at local shops. So that network effect, I think, is going to be hard to break. And the other thing is the whole issue around being able to pass on the interest from the stable coins. So with this bill, is that allowed?
I don't think so. Yeah, that was one of the bigger pieces that was contested. I don't think that they're able to do that. However, what I've read and heard from people in and around this is that this is a non-issue, and that the stablecoin issuers will find a way around this, whether that's through some kind of like what's it called, like airplanes reward system, or discounts or this kind of thing. There's too many ways around this, and as competition heats up, this will naturally there'll be natural ways around this, like just flat out returning interest on your coins, but it'll be basically de facto interest on your stable coins. So it'll happen regardless.
All right.
Yeah. So I saw that you made a list of losers for this. We've already talked about one, which is the SMBs. I think, honestly, to me, the biggest loser in all of this is the EU, probably. I don't know if you saw the remarks. I think it was last week. ECB, European Central Bank, ECB's Lagarde. She had a she had a speech, and in the speech, or she had some statements where she talked about how stable coins were bad and dangerous, and they limited the ability for central banks to implement monetary policy, this kind of thing. And then in the same breath, right, in the same speech, she talked about how the European Union is releasing its CBDC and how good this was going to be. To me, this is just like mega cope, right? Like, absolute. She's and basically it translates to I am scared shitless of U.S. dollar stablecoins further eroding the the euro's kind of importance and taking more money out of the EU and particularly the central bank. And hey, you should use our not our stablecoin, but it's basically their stablecoin, their CBDC. So
Yeah.
with this legislation passed, I think it's gonna absolutely. Why would anyone use the Euro CBDC? I don't I don't really see the point.
Well, people in Europe will use it for just like daily transactions. I think so, yeah, because from what I understand, so it's going to be lower fee than the current rails, like credit cards or like Web2 fintech payment networks. So, but on the other hand, there's a maximum. I think they've landed on 3,000 euros as
That's
the
right.
maximum amount that you can transact per, I don't know, day, month.
No, I think it's 3,000 is the maximum amount you can have at any one time in your like wallet.
You can have at any one time, right? So
yeah, I think that's it. So you can have 3,000 euro CBDC euros or whatever the hell they're going to call it.
Yeah, so they're aiming to use them just for like your daily purchases. That's the idea, and I don't. It's. But so only people in Europe are going to use the CBDC.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, this is kind of, we've talked about this before, so maybe eventually they'll use it, but the existing rails actually work really well already. And from a consumer's perspective, they don't really mind that much about the credit card fees. The ones who really care about it are merchants.
Yeah.
So the EU, basically all the, what's it called, developed countries, their kind of instant payment systems work fine. There's within their jurisdiction, right? The US,
yeah,
you see this. So maybe eventually this will just naturally go, but I don't see adoption happening at all, because if the only benefit is slightly lower fees, right? Retail just doesn't care that much, right? And then you have like these offsetting things, which is like basically this CBDC thing sets up the EU government, the ECB, the central bank, as a competitor to the EU banks.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you have a government entity that's going to compete with like Visa and MasterCard, the payment rails, and is going to compete with the banks directly. It sounds like a disaster. Like the banks are going to be upset about this.
Yeah, well,
no one's,
apparently that's why the 3,000 euros was settled upon, because the European banks are like, well, if it's more than that, then people are just not going to hold any money in our banks. So apparently that's the banks were the ones who negotiated it to a max of 3,000 euros.
Yeah.
With the intention here that it's just a payment system for small purchases, small daily purchases, and people should continue to hold their euros in the big banks in the EU.
Yeah. Again, but then like, so you have all these headwinds though, right? Like the banks are not going to be incentivized to get any of their customers to switch over.
Yeah.
The payment platforms won't really either, I don't think, right? Like they like their fees. So retail is going to do this of their own volition.
It's going to have to be completely led by the EU. The European Central Bank is going to have to like create an army of people to go door to door to all these merchants, set the thing up, or like just make a law where you have to do it, and then maybe they're going to airdrop money to everyone.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's going to be. It's not. Yeah.
Anyway, not a competitor to stable coins is what I'm trying to say. Is This just seems like doomed to fail. Maybe not fail, but basically fail. Right? It's not going to gain traction, and if you want to move money around or do anything really on chain of value, you could use now a US based stablecoin, right? Even within the EU, right? You could see, why not merchants adopt using stablecoins, right? I don't know.
Yeah, the Euro CBDC sounds more just like I don't know, a food stamp system. I guess that could come in handy.
Yeah, terrible.
So other losers, I mean, algorithmic stablecoins, they're a tiny contingency here, but yeah, they're not allowed in the Genius Act. So okay, loser.
Yep.
I don't know. There's some contention that consumers, the Genius Act is not actually great for consumers because it doesn't guarantee that FDIC protection against the redemption failures. So I'm not sure how much of a risk that is, but I guess it has to be managed by the stablecoin issuers.
Yeah.
So maybe what it is it's just like a slight erosion of that whole FDIC protection amount, where if you've got up to $250,000 in a bank account, it's supposedly insured in the US against bank failure. And if you have, I guess, more than 200, you're not going to have that same protection if you're holding $250,000 of JP Morgan coin.
Yeah. Although the idea that JP Morgan is going to have a bank run or not have those funds, I think is laughable. So yeah, I think this is kind of maybe it's a loser in like technically a loser, but in practice it's probably a non-issue. Although, if this allowed smaller banks to do this, that's when this would become potentially a bigger issue. So the fact that,
well, I think we should move on here. This is all just so dry. I don't know. What does this mean for our bags? What does this mean for our bags, David?
Nothing. Basically nothing. I don't think so.
Nothing.
The Genius Act. I mean, okay, fine. Well, I was going to talk about this later. Well, okay, I'll drop a hint. Here's a hint. Here's a hint. This is this is not good for my bags or your bags. Our current bags. This is basically not very relevant at all. But for some,
you don't know
people's
what my bags are.
Well, yeah, you're going to have to inform me in the next segment.
No, go on.
Little hint coming out. No. We'll talk about this because we need to get through these other two pieces of legislation. But for me at least,
I think we should forget the other two pieces of legislation.
You just want to move past them.
I think we should. Yeah, I think we should skip that. Nobody cares.
No one cares.
There's nothing happening.
Let's just mention them in passing. Clarity.
Okay.
Clarity is just a thing.
They're finally gonna decide who controls these assets, the SEC or the CFTC. Maybe. Yeah. Someday they'll finally decide that if this thing ever passes.
Yes.
And then the anti-CBDC one, complete nothing burger, in my opinion, because the US dollar is already a surveillance coin. So to the extreme, more than anything that you could have imagined 20 years ago. So, okay, we're not going to make an even more surveilled version.
I don't know if you can make a more surveilled version.
I don't know if that's possible. Make a more surveilled version anyway. So it's just pure. The anti-CBDC thing is just, I don't know. It's like a pandering.
Yes. All right. Well, then we've already finished. Really well done on both of those, Graham. Brevity is the soul of wit, and you did a great job with that. No, seriously, yeah, that's the 100% agree. So now, why
Ethereum.
would the yeah, why would the Genius Act be good for not our bags? Ethereum. This is Ethereum finally reversing, Graham? Is ETH
Well,
BTC?
yeah,
Is
I'd
this
say
it?
it's going to keep ripping because, and the reason I know that is because I sold all my Ethereum at the Pico bottom.
Did you really?
So, so yeah.
Oh my goodness!
But so take anything I say with a grain of salt. But
Because
I don't think
you're salty.
exactly because it's all just cope. It's salt. But I don't think Ethereum is gonna like take over the financial system. It's gonna it might pump here because all of crypto native was like over allocated and then extremely under allocated, and now money's going to flow back into Ethereum. But it's just going to be another bubble and it's going to pop. And I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. It's way too high of a valuation right now. Yeah, it could go higher, but I'm not risking it. So what do you got? Tell me how I'm wrong.
Mega cope. Woo! salty, my friend. Yeah. So, let's take a step back from
but I
that,
still hope it pumps because I got a few Ethereum NFTs.
Well, okay, so that's I was going to come to that. Right, there are several pieces. I think, just full disclosure, most of my ETH is gone. Although I do have my strategic ETH that I wasn't going to sell and I haven't, and I also do have some ETH NFTs and things like that are kind of beta to ETH itself. So
yeah,
I've been happy to see ETH go up because the ETH I'm holding is going up, and then I'm hopeful that the ETH NFT stuff will really go up then, right? Because they've been beaten down tremendously. Is this ETH's time to shine though? Is the question, right? We've been abused. Domestic violence for 18 months, 2 years, however long it's been, and I've been hit too many times to think that this time is different. But I am hopeful, eternally hopeful. I think what'll happen though, let me just give you my overall thing, is I think that we'll have a rally. I think it'll be short-lived though. I think it could rally a little bit, but it's not going to turn into some kind of like jubilant altcoin season starting run yet. Because I think Bitcoin is going to take over. I think what'll happen is once Bitcoin starts pumping again, it's going to suck the liquidity out of all of this stuff, and it'll be the Bitcoin game again. But having said that, let's go over why people are saying this. I guess the first and foremost is what Ethereum. It has gone up 40% month to date, which is quite a lot. And I was reading some of the memes on the timeline. It was like earlier this week. It was like, look, now Bitcoin has gone up. In the past 2 years, it's gone up minus 10%, or this kind of thing. So it's still down depending on the time frame, but year to date, it's up 40%.
Yeah. We've got the biggest ever by far ETH ETF inflow day. $750 million in a single day. Look at that chart.
Yeah.
So the institutions are allocating to ETH because they don't know what they're doing.
2 billion in plus positive inflows since July 4th. That's crazy, man. Right? That's insane. What else? So there was an FT Financial Times article yesterday hinting that Trump is getting close to signing an executive order that will allow crypto, among other assets like gold, but like crypto into 401ks, into retirement funds. Obviously, this will benefit Bitcoin the most, but second to Bitcoin presumably would be Ethereum. And so, and if it, even though it would benefit secondarily to Bitcoin because it's at a much lower market cap, presumably that could pump the price a lot higher. So that's one thing. The next is, as we mentioned, the Genius Act is on its way to Trump, who should be signing it today or early next week. Stable coins, really, really kind of the backbone of DeFi. Where does DeFi live? You could argue between Solana and Ethereum, but definitely on Ethereum. It's Ethereum is either the number one place for it or the number two place for it. And so you could conceivably see Ethereum getting some benefit from the fact that stablecoins in the US are now kind of enshrined legally. I think the Ethereum mainnet still has the largest amount of stablecoins on it. So,
I don't see how the Genius Act is bullish for Ethereum, because if anything, as we discussed, you're going to end up with these big banks making stablecoins. And I mean, even if they use Ethereum, whatever, like that doesn't value does not accrue to the ETH token from that.
I mean, but you're not talking like you're not talking intelligently in a bull market, Graham. You're talking about cents and numbers and things like that.
Fundamentals, yeah.
That's a wrong way of thinking.
Yeah, fine. Greater fool theory. People are gonna ape into ETH, but I don't know.
Buildle, right? BlackRock's Buildle. That's on ETH mainnet. You know.
Yeah.
What's it called? So you have that. Also this week. So this is all happening this past week, right? So you also have BlackRock filed for ETH staking for its ETF. If this gets passed, which is likely to get passed, very, very, very likely, then you probably will see even more future positive flows into ETH ETFs. And they'll
doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody care about what is it, 1%, 2% yield on their asset that like is extremely volatile, goes up and down 5% in a day? It's like doesn't make any sense.
Well, so. I mean, so TradFi, again, I'm taking this at word. TradFi investors, they love yield for some reason. So that's
on stable assets.
Apparently, even
like
on unstable dollar. Assets. No. I mean, apparently, like stocks that give dividends and things of that nature. They find they like that it has yield for some reason. Yeah,
I don't buy it.
I'm just reporting the news here, Mr. Cope. All right, what else do we have? What else is positive this week? SBET, the strategy formerly known as MicroStrategy. The strategy,
is the Tom Lee one. The Tom.
Yeah. So strategy filed. Mana, thank you. Apologies. Strategy SBET filed to sell $5 billion worth of common stock in order to buy ETH. So they might not be able to sell that much common stock, but in the event that they are, that $5 billion is going to go directly into buying ETH. That should have a material effect on the price of ETH, you'd imagine. And SBET is going to be kind of like strategy was, as in once it's obvious that it's working and you're seeing the stock price go up however many multiples it's gone up, you'll have copycats which will also be buying ETH, and you'll probably see the same kind of thing that has happened to Bitcoin. So this could be the potential start of a Bitcoin,
All right.
Ethereum treasury company thing.
Are you an ETH buyer at this price?
No. Just gotta let me finish, dude. I could already see you like wriggling with the cope. It's enjoyable. Is there anything else? I thought there was one more thing. Can't remember. Oh, yeah. Apparently the chart looks good. If you're a trader, lots of people on the timeline like salivating at the chart. Looks great.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. But you're
Are
not
you
a buyer I'm not a buyer at these prices. No. How about you? No?
Well, let's see. How about this? What if it gets to 4,000 in like a week and a half, 10 days?
I'll be even more salty.
Yeah? You gonna FOMO at some point?
No, absolutely not.
What if
I will, though.
So here, I had this Twitter post. So somebody basically was saying on the timeline, oh no, hello? You there? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone was saying on the timeline that a good trader, a big KOL, that the big crypto funds, VCs and hedge funds and all this kind of stuff, they were over allocated Ethereum, right? Going into like from 2023 to start of 2025, right? Bitcoin ripped. They all lost money because they lost money by comparison because they were holding ETH and not Solana. They rotated out of Ethereum late. So you've seen during that whole time from 2023 to the present, they were rotating out of ETH at a higher and higher rate. So you saw the ETH price go down and down and down and down. They rotated late into Solana, late into Bitcoin. And now they finally rotated completely out of ETH, right? And ETH is now starting to pump. You've seen Solana kind of slow down, consolidate, reverse. And so
they're gonna rotate back into it, and it's gonna pump like even more, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, and Solana is going to maybe suffer by comparison. So you'll see Solana not perform as well as ETH.
History rhymes, David, but it does not repeat. So I would argue that the smart money may have actually learned something here. And this ETH rally will be short-lived because nothing has changed. All the disparaging comments that we've made about ETH over the last year, nothing has changed there. It's still plagued by the parasitic L2 problem. There's still no accrual of value from the network usage to the actual price of the token. Nothing really happens on Ethereum besides a little DeFi trading here and there. So,
I when I hear that, you know what I think about is I think I shared this however many months ago. Hasu, the great he has a great podcast, but he's also a poster. He wrote a couple months ago,
massive ETH bag holder, by the way.
Not just a massive ETH bag holder, he's also a massive ETH ecosystem.
Yeah, he's like a Lido advisor board, blah, blah, blah.
Before that, he was with, what was it called? The MEV company, Flash. Oh, God, I can't remember. Anyway, he said ETH has gone down for 18 months for no real reason, and ETH is going to pump. He predicted, and ETH will pump, and it will be equally for no reason. And
All right. Well,
I think he's probably right.
yeah, I guess end of the day, I'm just never going to make it, man, because I can't bring myself. I can't bring myself. I couldn't bring myself to buy NFTs in whatever it was, 2021, because I'm like, what is this garbage? This is retarded. And but what I did do though is I did buy some NFTs at the Pico top when the FOMO finally got to me. So, all right, let's move on. Can we move on? Can we stop talking about ETH?
In 1 second. I just wanted to say though that I'm very, very similar to that as well. And I think most people are, to be honest, though. I think that's how it almost always happens, right? Like not most people are most people aren't going to make it. In order for some to make it, most people aren't going to make it.
Exactly
is probably the case for that. So yeah.
All right.
Let's move on.
Let's move on to our last topic here for today. We got to talk about the Pump token, the launch of Pump token, because this is pretty massive. So, quick summary for those who don't know. Pump.fun launched in early 2024, saw more than 1 million tokens launched by July 2024. The peak of the Pump Fund Mania was November 2024, where there were 69,000 daily token launches, an auspicious number. Over 13.5 million public wallet addresses have interacted on Pump.fund, the platform, and they have earned reportedly around $800 million in revenue since launching. Okay, so that's some facts about the Pump.fund platform. Now, they obviously did this token sale. They raised $600 million in 12 minutes at a $4 billion fully diluted valuation.
Before that, they raised, was it 500 million? 4 to 500 million in a private round.
Exactly. So they raised over $1 billion, and they sold. But interestingly, perhaps refreshingly, the public token sale and the private round were priced at the same amount, which is 0.04 cents. So half a cent, a little less than half a cent per pump. Between the public round and private round, so the public round was 15% of the total supply, and the private was 18% of the total supply. So that's 33% total distributed to the public. And then beyond that, they've got 24% allocated for the community and ecosystem growth. So that's their reserve for promotions. 20% to the team, and 2.4% to an ecosystem fund, 2% to a foundation. All right, so that's the distribution. Only KYC buyers could participate in the sale, and the US and UK were excluded. Now, let's just talk quickly about the what happened. So it launched a few days ago. It traded. So again, the ICO price was 0.004 cents. It traded as high as 0.0068 cents. So up about 80% from the ICO price. At the time of recording right now on Friday morning in Asia, Thursday night in the West, it's back to around 0.005, so half a cent, which is a little like 25% up from the ICO price. All right, so those are the facts. Now, question, is Pump a buy?
I said in my newsletter last week that I was going to sit out the ICO. I wasn't going to buy or participate, and I still think that was the right call for me and for most people, because I think it is not a buy, in my opinion. And
let's walk through it. Why is pump not a buy?
Well, okay, let me say the other side first, though, right? Like why? So the crypto Twitter and a lot of the people that I follow were very bullish on it, right? And for a little bit, I thought I was wrong because it was just getting dunked on. Oh, all the haters are idiots.
I wonder if the people who were bullish on it were
they were all insiders. They all bought in the private round. And they disclosed that too. So they weren't hiding it. Yeah. So they did disclose that. But it was like a whole thing. Like, and also there was all the Solana ecosystem people, like people who are like Solana cheerleaders themselves.
Yeah.
They also were like, you see, bro, this is amazing. Anyway, so you have the classic like token goes live and it goes up and then it goes down. Now, I don't think it's a buy here. I think if you're a trader, you could have bought the second it went live, and you would have made a little profit there on that the first like 2 days or something, 3 days. But for most people, this is very volatile. It could go up, it could go down. I think there's a lot of tokens that are going to come out, and a lot of people have tokens they can sell. I don't know if it's that valuable. That's the overall thing. You saw, and I also mentioned this in my newsletter. Let's Bonk, right? Let's Bonk.fun, which is like the Bonk copycat of Pump.fun. From like 10 days ago to the present, even to now, it's done more revenue than Pump.fun, right?
Exactly.
To me, this proves that Pump.fun doesn't have a moat at all.
Absolutely.
And so,
and not only that, but the industry that it's in is fickle, I would say. Like, what is it? What is the industry that Pump.fun is in? It's in the
extraction from retail,
meme coin casino, like try to
hyper extractive,
try to pump people up on some value on some like new thing, and then the cabal just like extracts the money from them, and 99% of people lose money. That's the industry. It's people
only Pump.fun wins.
Exactly. I don't think there's any. I don't think that's going to last.
Yeah,
I'm surprised it's last as long as it has.
Yeah, I mean, I think there always will be this kind of thing, just like meme coins. It makes sense that if meme coins will always be around, then the platforms that create meme coins should always be around. But they'll probably be. It'll probably look a lot like meme coins themselves, which is there'll always be a new one. How hard is it going to be? How hard is it going forward to spin up a platform? Right, so Pump.fun did it, and now we've seen Let's Bonk do it.
So the Pump.fun's market share has dropped from 100% to like less than 60% now. Let's Bonk isn't the only competitor. And then beyond that, if you look at the tokenomics, like as you mentioned, there's a bunch of they hold a bunch of. The team has 20% of the supply. There's like, but beyond that, like the token itself doesn't. There's not a real strong value accrual to the token based on the business, like there is with, for example, Hype. 99% of the 97% goes back to token to buybacks. With Pump, it's 25%.
Yeah, much lower.
So much lower. They're still talking about things like, oh, it's a governance token.
Like that old thing, huh? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and they're talking about like they've got these massive ambitions. We're going to compete with TikTok and Meta in monetizing attention and creativity. Really? Through meme coins? I mean, okay. I don't see it. Yeah.
I don't see it either. And I'm a boomer in this respect. I don't get this Zoomer crap. But I just don't. Yeah. I don't see a moat. I don't see
a moat.
Why. Yeah. I don't see why anyone should have confidence in this, right? Like why would you hold it? Now, again, it'll get revenue going in from pump.fun, and they'll buy coins. But why would you not sell into that? I don't see why Pump doesn't operate like a meme coin itself. So, and here's another thing that I found weird, or it was head scratching on the timeline, because people kept talking about how the team is so awesome and these like driven team, super smart, all this kind of stuff, right? You got to back the team. The team's really awesome, and all I see are like really kind of extractive. Their history has been incredibly extractive, right? How they've structured other parts of their ecosystem, like the split with content creators and everything, have been pointed out by others, like Suzu has pointed it out as kind of scammy, and just like max extractive, you know. So then this token ICO coin launch comes around, and it seems the exact same thing. It just seems like they can almost see the writing on the wall that there is no moat, that they're gonna have insane competition. So cash out as much as possible. Yeah, they've already cashed out something like 800 million. They've already done that before this happened.
Might as well get another Billy or two.
Unbelievable, really bizarre. Yeah. But then like the amount of like love they got from people, the team, as like a high, and they've executed well for themselves. It feels like I don't see. Yeah. See it. Right, anyway,
so pump is not a buy. We agree on that. Do not buy this token. But I do think there's something interesting here. Well, come on.
Can I just do one caveat? One caveat, no just caveats. For people listening, do I think that pump can pump? Do I think it could have a run up? Hell yeah, I really do. But I'm really bad at playing meme coins, like Doge. For example, I think Doge will have a massive run. I'm not going to touch Doge. I'm not going to touch it because I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm really bad at that. Yeah. And I think, I think Pump could have like a planned, incredible parabolic run. I still think it's kind of bad and trash.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stay away from
XRP.
I you know what? Honestly, I'd buy XRP before I would buy Pump. Way before I would buy Pump.
I was just going to say that. Exactly. Kind of like XRP, but I would buy XRP before Pump. Yes, exactly. It's less volatile. All right. So Pump's not a buy, but I do think this ICO is interesting. This is the biggest ICO since 2017, the third biggest ever. I think first is EOS, second is the Ton, and number 3, Pump. So that's interesting. Then you also had pretty interesting, like the capital formation here of how this happened, and like the way it was all on chain. They managed to raise all this money on chain. There was a efficient like pre-market on Hyperliquid that like got the price of the token right. All this is pretty interesting, and I think it may portend a new wave of ICOs.
Agree.
So that could
100%.
Be interesting. Yeah. And if any of those actually have better, like the business behind them, the better tokenomics, then maybe, and if I can get in early, then I'll be talking about how great it is.
No, I I agree, and I would actually add on. I think that we'll probably this cycle see an ICO Mania 2.0. That's what I think is going to help bring this particular cycle to an end, having seen this pumped up fund thing. I think this is just the beginning of it, right? And I think we're going to look back on this in maybe 12 months and be like, they only raised $1 billion. Those idiots. I mean, I think it's got to get retarded, Graham, before the cycle ends, right? And
well, I hope so.
I think you'll see some massive, just insane, stupid ICO raises, and it'll be on chain. It'll be based mostly on chain, like this kind of thing. They've paved the way, so you'll see. I think you'll see some crazy action. Anyway, that's my prediction.
All right. So, David, last question for you here before we wrap things up. What will the price of Bitcoin be 1 week from now for our next Token Narratives episode?
Yeah, I think it will be 120K. I think we're not going to see much movement.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. I'm actually impressed at how well Bitcoin has consolidated here at this new. So it was consolidating for months between 100 and 110. We broke through 120. I think it reached a high of 123 and dipped back down to as low as like 117, bounced back. I think we could be in for another reasonably extended consolidation period. That's how I'm feeling it about right now. So about the same price for next week.
Yeah. I would just add to that one observation, which most people here probably already know, but it's something to keep in mind, which is Bitcoin is very, very peculiar, even amongst risk assets, which all act like what I'm about to say, which is there isn't a lot of movement most of the time. But then for very, very short periods, you see these like massive repricings. And if you're not in it during those, like, 10 days, 15 days of the year, then you miss like 80% of the upside. It's crazy what the stats are. I'll have to do a little more research on this, but it's truly amazing that that if you're just not in it and you miss it, you miss most of the gains. And so
right,
it's important.
Be in it. But I just want to. It's a two-part question. This is my last question here. So, how about Ethereum a week from now? Currently, 2 weeks ago, it was $2,500. Now it's $3,600 and going straight up. Where's it going to be a week from now? Surely not $3,600.
No.
Like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be flat, probably.
I think Ethereum tests 4,000 and rejects 4,000. That's what I think.
And then where does it end up?
It could end up in the same place, actually. But I think it'll hit 4,000, 3,600 to let's say 3,700. I think it'll test, maybe even poke up above and then go down. What about you?
Can't believe I sold my ETH at the Pico bottom. All right, let's wrap it up, guys.
Wait. What about you? Answer the question next week.
I think you're probably right. Ethereum, I don't know. I hope it drops back down to 2,000.
You hope it drops down to 2,000 and stays there, because you're not going to buy at 2,000 either.
Exactly. All right. To anyone holding ETH out there, good luck. I wish you well.
He doesn't.
That's it for Token Narratives this week. Have a great week. Thank you, David.